James is going to be our MC.
So I'm trying to keep it not too formal, but it's, I mean, I will see how many questions we get. Well, thank you, Brad, and welcome everyone this evening. This is the City of Temiskaming Shores virtual town hall event. We thank you for joining us. The overall intent of tonight's meeting was to enable our local small businesses to ask questions of our local councilors and small business services. And so we've got a few partners involved that are on the line with us, as well as our members of council who are hopefully going to be able to answer your questions this evening. We'll do our best to answer those questions. If by chance there are questions we are unable to answer, we will take some notes and we'll get back to you with any answers that we can't provide this evening. So I'd like to start by thanking John Bernstein from the South Temiskaming Community Futures Development Corp. We have Megan Packard here representing Grant Thornton, so thank you, Megan. We have Lois Weston Bernstein from the Temiskaming Shores and Area Chamber of Commerce. We have Dalton Potter here from the Temiskaming Development Fund. We have Emily Potter representing Nofia. And we have Chantal Charbonneau representing Enterprise Temiskaming. So thank you for those community partners for joining us, and all our members of council and their kid for participating this evening. So I'm just going to hand you back to Brad for one quick second, because Brad's going to sort of explain to those of you that are online, if you'd like to ask a question to the presenters and the panelists that are here, how you would go about doing that this evening. Perfect. Thanks, Brad. So I think we're going to start this evening. I sort of hope everyone, our service providers are going to get a little bit of detail about what their program may or may be able to do to assist small businesses. But I think we'll start with Mayor Kidd. Your Honor, if we wanted to sort of give a little update on what the city is doing so far.
The city's been very thankful to have the guidance of our acting medical officer of health, as well as the federal and the provincial governments. These times are certainly nothing like anything that we've ever seen before, and hopefully we'll never see again, but we're going to work through this. Like many of you, we've tried to keep our staff, many of them working from home, and a lot of our full staff we've kept on salary and working through this epidemic there. Many of them are actually doing maintenance jobs and other jobs that we would normally hire outside contractors to do there, so we're trying to keep everybody busy. As the province allows the city to gradually open more of our facilities, these same employees will be available to perform the normal jobs, plus all the sanitizing and gym equipment, playground equipment, etc., which will probably become a normal routine for the foreseeable future there, so, until we can actually find a vaccine. The council staff continue to discuss what needs to be done as the province allows us to open more of our parks, trails, campground, and possibly our fitness center and the Hillbury Pool possibly as well. So those are what we'll be discussing over the next couple of weeks. Like you, we need to provide physical distancing, which means that it may be a while before things like playground equipment, picnic tables, halls, and events that draw large groups of people together. We're going to stay away from that. With the assistance of the health unit, we will be making plans as to how to operate the farmers market starting in June. So hopefully we can get that organized. And we'll get the farmers market, everybody enjoys that as well. So, and as soon as the lake levels come up by another foot, we'll be able to get in there and put the docks in, so people can lots of boats and go fishing. So right now the dock, the water level is still a bit too low there. So, but we'll hopefully get those 5 boat launches opened up in the next 2 or 3 weeks. The marinas will remain closed for now until the province gives us direction on when to open them. And hopefully our business and residents have taken advantage of all the federal subsidies and benefits that have been announced over the last month or so. And I know that even with these programs, many of you are still really struggling and are anxiously looking forward to when you can actually open your doors for business to come in the door there rather than just curbside. If you were current with your taxes before this coronavirus hit, you will now find that it is maybe impossible to pay your taxes for the May installment, and council has waived the interest and penalties at least until the July 15th installment is due there, and then council will have to look at it again in June here and decide whether we have to extend that or not as well. So I mean, if you can't pay your taxes for any particular reason, then when you get around to it, you won't be actually charged any interest or penalties. So hopefully the problems will allow these businesses to open up and start generating some new revenues again. So, and other than that, I mean, I'll thank everybody for taking time to join us tonight. And if we can not answer any of your questions, like Brad said, then we'll certainly get back to you there. So that's my sort of opening comments, and we'll look forward to any other questions we have tonight. Thanks, James.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Mayor Kidd. I guess I'm going to go through some of our other service providers just to sort of let them outline quickly a couple of the things that they're providing for small business that may answer some questions for them before we start. So I'm seeing Lois in my top corner. So Lois, perhaps you can advise what the chamber is doing at this point.
Okay, thanks. Well, we're working remotely, like we're constant contact together, but we are doing our best to take the information we're receiving. We're asking for the Chamber of Commerce, other northern chambers, all the limit representatives, agencies, a few tourism partners, and we're doing our best to share that information through our newsletters. We have a devoted webpage on tsac.ca that has become the local sort of source for all of the updates we're getting. We're updating that website, seems hourly sometimes, and using our newsletter, social media to share the information and promote what's going on with other businesses as well, or sharing our members' updates as much as we can. And because I get to talk first, I get to mention that with most of these partners on the line, we are working with the Far Northeast Training Board. We have the results from the first survey, which was in April, and we have another survey that we launched today, getting a handle on what's the state of the business, what's happening with businesses. And one of the things that came out of the first one is an online business directory. First, we launched that today with this survey. So through the Far Northeast Training Board, there's an online business directory where everyone stores what they're doing, what their services are, how they're modified. And this will be a regional one. We're working with partners in Kirkland Lake as well. And it's a platform we expect that will continue beyond this, and as a way of regionally promoting what we have available and shop local and promote the local services. And that's found at fnetb.com/COVID-19. And you can register your business or just browse businesses. And if you're looking for the information on the Chamber website, it's tsac.ca/COVID-19. And also just that we're also the ONTC agency for new listeners for that only. And Monday to Friday from 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. And the bus parcel service has become pretty important right now, and so that's still available. So
Wonderful.
That's about it for now. We're here to help any way we can.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Lois. So I apologize for any others. I'm finding it a little choppy here and there, and the reality is we're all working from various locations, and internet connections, and like in my own house, is probably being split between my teenage boys watching movies and and me doing this video. So the reality is we've got what we've got. Anyway, moving on, I'm going to go to John at the South Temiskaming Community Futures Office.
Thanks, James. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
So for those that don't know about us, we're a not-for-profit organization funded through the Government of Canada's Community Futures Program, supported financially by FedMar here in Northern Ontario. It's important that I get that out. We've been supporting business in South Temiskaming for over 30 years, providing free business counseling and repayable financing by way of flexible loans through our local investment fund. We're governed by a local volunteer board of directors, and all decision-making is made in-house. So the type of actions that we've been taking since the COVID pandemic outbreak have sort of been two-pronged. As of March 15th, we suspended the accrual of any interest accruing throughout our loan portfolio to support our clients. Originally, it was for a 3-month period, but we've extended that to a 6-month period through September 15th. And we have also suspended the requirement to make any loan payments during that period, although, of course, if clients are able to, we will apply that directly towards the principal balance owing. The second thing that we've done is we've launched a new COVID loan product funded through our existing investment fund. So this is this is not new funding from the federal government, but rather action taken by our board of directors to respond to the needs of our business community. Businesses negatively impacted by COVID can apply to us for up to $25,000 operating loan. No payments are required, no interest will accrue through September 15th, followed by interest being set at the prime rate for an 18-month term, with repayment calculated over a full 5-year period. So we're trying to make payments as manageable as we possibly can. The other thing about the loan product that we've launched is it's a simplified application process, so there's no business plans required. It's essentially an application to provide us an overview of the current status of the business. Is the business open or closed? What impacts have COVID had on the business as that relates to, say, revenues, employment levels, and what do they intend to use the funds for? So it could be for anything from payroll, rent, utilities, payables, taxes, implementing safe work environments for customers or employees, or to relaunch businesses as we come out of this. The other thing is it's an expedited approval process. So my board has authorized me to approve these loans internally, so we can normally approve and disperse funds within the same week. Essentially, we review the applications, conduct a quick credit check, and then, if approved, secure the loan with a promissory note that we get signed electronically by the client, and then send in electronic fund transfer to their bank account, usually on a Friday. So that's where the Community Futures stands as of today, but I would like to mention that we are expecting details about the April 17th Government of Canada's COVID funding announcement, where they announced they would support rural businesses through the Community Futures program. That COVID product is in the final stages of development for approval through Treasury Board. So more support is coming on the way through Community Futures, so stay tuned, and we hope to get that information out once it's available.
Wonderful. Thanks, John. Next, I think I'll move to NoFIA. And Emily, how can NoFIA assist our local businesses or farm producers, perhaps?
So quickly, for those of you who don't know what NoFIA is, we are the Northern Ontario Farm Innovation Alliance, and we work to advance agriculture across Northern Ontario through research and innovation. So we're based out of New Risker, but cover the whole north. We've been working from home like most everyone else due to the COVID situation, and we've been working with our industry partners on a broader industry look at the current impacts of COVID-19, as well as how those will affect long-term, as well as long-term and short-term solutions to that. Specifically, we've been working with the Rural Agri Innovation Network on their fund, the SNAP program, Sustainable New agri products and productivity program that we recently did a survey with them addressing how that SNAP program can assist during this time. So hoping out of that soon that we'll have some information on how that program will look. As well, we've been talking to producers. There's been a lot of programs out there released for agriculture. A lot of different industry organizations have been working on solutions. So just putting together that information and then getting it out there, sharing it as much as possible through our social medias as well as email. So if anybody is interested in specific programming, they can contact us. Probably easiest to go directly to our website, nofia-agri.com, to get in contact with us. It's probably easier than naming specific programs, but that is about what we've been doing, taking a more broader approach.
Wonderful. Well, thanks very much for that, Emily. And yeah, so for anybody, if you don't have any of these contact information for these specific programs, you can always reach out through the city's website or to myself, and I can connect you to any of these programs. Or Lois at the chamber can also do that for us. Moving on, looking to Chantal at Enterprise Temiskaming.
So for us, for the people who don't know us, we are one of several small business centers located across Ontario. We are funded by both the Ministry of Energy, Northern Development and Mines, and Ministry of Economic Development, Job Creation and Trade. Whew. It's a mouthful. So for us, it's been pretty much business as usual, except obviously from home. We've been meeting and having consultations with our clients via telephone and different platforms such as Zoom, Teams, and Skype for Business. So it's been going well. Consultations are pretty much on par with what we've always had. A lot of existing customers, though. Many businesses just looking to see and to be directed to the right benefit programs and relief programs for the pandemic. And a lot of them looking to see how they can pivot their business. So it's been a lot of working with repeat clients, and it's been nice to see that so many have managed to pivot their business. And I think we're looking hopeful for most of the local businesses. Definitely some will struggle more than others in different sectors, but they've managed to really keep everything rolling fairly well, considering the circumstances. We're still offering our program, so we still offer Summer Company. And Starter Company will start in September, probably with more of a COVID-related spin, so helping businesses change their focus and the way they operate. And I think most of us partners have all decided to share all our information through the Chamber's website and their newsletter, so as to not confuse most of our clients with repeat information. However, we have added a Google Calendar on our website, on the enterprise website, and it's strictly for all webinars that are offered. So from us, from other SBACs, from different organizations throughout Ontario and Canada. So feel free to go and check them out. There's tons of them all day, every day. So a bit for everybody, including the NOFIA ones, and so a whole bunch.
Wonderful. And that website, that would be enterprisetemiskaming.ca?
That's right.
All right. Perfect. And I'll just, lastly, but certainly not least, I want to introduce Megan Packard, who's here representing Grant Thornton, and the reason we thought it would be helpful to have Megan here because you're likely dealing with many businesses with respect to these specific programs.
Thank you, James. So for those of you who do not or are not familiar with Grant Thornton, we are a national accounting firm. Our office here in New Westgard is part of our Northern Ontario business unit. So we work together, the 5 offices in that business unit as one big team. So we do have a number of information put together on our website. We have a COVID-19 hub to be found at grantthornton.ca. And we also have a few staff members in our business unit who are designated to help our clients or even other small businesses who just need assistance in, applying for the programs or just getting information for the programs. So those people are, we kind of refer to them as our COVID-19 SWAT team. So they are specialists, and that's all they do at this point in time. So I'm really here today just to kind of help you guys out, answer some questions maybe directly related to some of the measures that the government has in place. Yeah. Thank you.
Perfect. Well, thanks everyone, and I've already, my phone is next to me, and I'm getting questions texted me from Brad, so I'm gonna start off with one of the first questions we have, and
Did Dalton want to say a few words?
Yes. Dalton, I didn't see you. Are you still with us, Dalton, from Timfun? Well, I think we may have lost him.
Okay.
So moving on to our questions, and I'm gonna, of course, the first one is a question that says, we're likely to address to council, what's going on about taxes?
Well, I think a stab at that, James. Your May installment, if you were current in your taxes before this COVID thing started and you find yourself short in revenue and you're not able to pay your May installment, then you can defer that at least until the July installment there, and there won't be any interest or penalty on that. If this COVID thing continues on and a lot of businesses don't open the doors and get more traffic in and possibly can't pay their July installment, then council's going to look at that in the next month or so and decide whether they're going to extend that or not. So for now, if you can pay your taxes, great. We need the cash flow in order to provide the services that the city provides. If you definitely can't pay for some reason, then you can defer your taxes for those 2 or 3 months until we look at the July and then look at whether we need to extend that again or not.
Perfect. And that's a similar program to what most other government agencies are doing. These are deferral programs. There's whether it's a loan deferral or whatever. It's at some point money has to come back. So our next question is, and I'm not sure. Maybe Mike MacArthur. I'll put this one to you because this is a recreation-related question. When is the fitness center going to open back up?
Well, as far as I've heard, and Matt has heard, and the whole committee has heard, and council, that'll be decided by the Ontario government. We have, yes, we do have some powers in municipalities, and we make decisions. But in a crisis like this, the Ontario government takes over, and they make the decisions on what goes and what doesn't go, from golf courses to parks, swings, you name it, marinas, just to name a few. But I feel that this is going to have to come out of Premier Doug Ford's jurisdiction, and we won't be able to do anything until he gives the green light. Hopefully he will do something Thursday, which will probably help some areas. I will not speculate, but it all comes down to the Ontario government on most of the major decisions on what is going to be used and not used for this time.
Perfect. Thank you, Mike. And we have a similar question related to playground equipment. The playground equipment is still closed, but was wondering about the walking trail in Bros subdivision. As long as social distancing is kept, would that be allowed? So perhaps, Jeff, do you want to comment on that?
Sure, I can comment on it. It's really getting back to the recreation group, and I know we did meet last Thursday to review some of the recommendations that are coming down across the province. Where some of these facilities are being opened up. However, the amenities themselves are not being allowed to be used. And I know our recreation group, like I said, met on Thursday. They're making some recommendations to council, and council will be dealing with those recommendations at our next council meeting. So there is a possibility that some of those things may open. But again, it's really working with the health unit and making sure that the province is allowed for those facilities to actually open up.
Okay, no, I agree, and I think that the point about perhaps walking in the subdivision while using social distancing, I think if you're following the guidelines that the health unit has put out, that's probably quite acceptable. All right, let's see. My next question we have. Let's see. Well, they're very similar related questions. This one's specific to the boardwalk. When would we likely see the boardwalk open? Do you think that's a different answer than one we've heard already?
I guess the boardwalk and the saddle trail along the spur line there is remaining closed for now until we can determine whether or not we can get the playgrounds open and whether or not we can keep the picnic tables not open or not. Right now we've blocked off the playgrounds and the picnic tables and that, so we don't want people congregating in groups of 4 or 5 to 10 people on the playgrounds. So I mean, most of the saddle trail is open, and parts of the boardwalk are open as well, but it's just not through the spur line and down by the ball fields there.
Okay, perfect. And so, I mean, as many members of council have mentioned, the reality is, folks, for these, most of these openings is totally related to the emergency order issued by the province of Ontario. Once the province of Ontario states it's okay for municipalities to open these things, then municipalities will be able to make the decisions on when they open in their own communities. So at this point, we don't even have those options. So the next one I have is transit related, and sadly, I'm not positive which members of council are on our transit committee. But I would like to have a bus shelter in front of the Northdale Manor. I'm not sure if we're able to answer that question this evening, but I don't know if anybody would like to comment on that, or whether we refer that to the transit committee for a later date.
Mike sits on the transit committee.
I am the chairman of the transit committee, and that request would have to go to the committee, and we would discuss it. That's a shelter in front of the manor, did you say?
I believe, yes, that's the request.
Okay, that's fine. I can add that to the agenda. If the person listening or wrote this, I'd love to get a name and a number so we could contact them to let them know that what the decision was. But definitely can bring that up at the next transit meeting for sure.
Perfect, Mike. And I do have a contact individual for that individual, so I can pass that along to you. So next one I have is, Danny, are you a health unit representative? Who am I health? Doug is the health unit
Jeff, Mike and I.
Yeah, oh boy, I see. I got to read the minutes once in a while. So along with the health unit, does the city have additional COVID guidelines? So I'll let one of you choose that.
We basically follow the acting medical officer of health and whatever guidelines that he puts forward locally here, as well as the provincial guidelines. So they're the ones that are providing all the data and the guidelines. We are asked to follow there. We do have weekly meetings with the acting medical officer of health there, and he updates us on all the different guidelines there. But they do have, I think, 4 staff, 4 nurses that actually man a COVID line at the health unit. That if they do have questions, they can actually call that health unit number, and they'll be directed to that call lines there as well, so people can have their questions answered from the health unit there as well.
Wonderful. As a follow-up to that question, one of the questions was, what about the disposal of contaminated PPE? And just to let council members know, I had this question earlier, so I followed up with our Public Works Department, and the answer they provided was that they suggested the PPE be put into a garbage bag and sealed tightly and then just put into the garbage. That's an acceptable way to dispose of contaminated PPE. So I've got another texted question here. All right, from, well, I'm not sure who it's from. They're all coming from Brad.
Hi, James.
Sorry.
I just wanted to let you know I heard from Dalton, and I think he might have been caught up in the technical difficulties from earlier. He can see us and hear us, but nobody can hear him.
We can't hear him. Well, thank you, Dalton, for joining us. I don't know. Are you confident enough you could say what TEM Fund does in our community, John?
Yes, they're an economic development agency from a fund, I believe, that was established when Dofasco shut down Sherman Adams mines, and has been operating in our area ever since, supporting mainly manufacturing and industrial type of businesses throughout the Temiskaming district.
Perfect. So they still provide loans for sort of manufacturing industrial style businesses.
Yeah, that's it exactly.
Wonderful. All right, I've got another question here. So Temiskaming Shores business community relies on cross-border shoppers. But with our neighbors in Quebec having a much higher number of COVID cases than we do, what is the city doing to protect us since Quebec opened the border on Monday? Oh, there's more. Many residents coming over are coming in family size and entering our establishments together. They aren't following Ontario's guidelines and putting other people at risk. Does anybody have a comment on that?
All I'll say is, I will say that I think the people that are coming over now today, most of them are from the Notre Dame du Nord, Ville Marie, gig areas. I think the question the person is getting at is they heard of all these different cases in Rouen, which is true, but this was just lifted by the Quebec government. It had nothing to do with Ontario. People were, the OPP was stopping people. The OPP had nothing to do with this, but they felt now that this was the time to let people come. But I really think that most of the people that are coming here are residents just across the border here. And I think the big scare was the folks in Rouen.
I think the biggest thing as well, Mike, is that we're asking everybody whether they're from the Quebec side or the Ontario side to physical distance. I mean, when they go into a store, I mean, it's up to the business people to maybe encourage them to wear masks, maybe up to the business to encourage them to space out and physical distance when they're in the store, and then follow the arrows and that in different stores. And we like their business from Quebec as well as people from this area. So.
Oh, excellent. And I think you're right. I think most of the stores now have their own, I mean, the provincial government and then through our local health unit have put out guidelines on what businesses should recommend. They are guidelines. It's up to the businesses, I guess, whether they implement those things or not. And I know for a fact that I've been in a store with my wife and been told only one of us is allowed to be there. So the stores are managing these things and trying to limit the numbers of folks in the stores. I hope that will solve those problems or those concerns. All right. So the next question we have is, are there any programs for businesses to restart or new start for businesses? So this is likely going to our service providers.
I would say that the usual programs are available, and a few more actually, but the regular programs like NOHFC is still taking applications. ION has great programs that you can check out. NeoNet has a BTIF program that applies to a lot of people. There's a lot of good programs. As always, it always depends on what sector you're in. If there's a NOW program which has an intake in the fall. So it really depends on what sector you're in, but we can definitely help you. If you give me a call or send me an email, I can chat with you and see what you're trying to start and what could apply to you.
Yeah, and I'd just add to that, James, that in terms of issuing new loans of a more regular nature, so not the emergency style loans for starting up, buying an existing business, acquiring equipment, expansions. Certainly from the Community Futures perspective, we will do what we can to support those types of applications where they make sense. Certain sectors are going to be hit harder than others. We're in the beginning phase of opening back up, so we're going into now the recovery phase, and the timelines are uncertain. So before the COVID situation occurred, people looking to acquire a business or start a new business had to develop a business plan and develop a business case for that. That'll be the ask for any financer entertaining those type of applications moving forward. We're here to help. We're here to support. So contact us. We'll help you walk through that. But it's there is a lot of uncertainty that's still out there. So it depends on the nature of the business they're looking at and the type of activity they're going into.
Perfect. So I just to let you know, I don't have any further questions that have come in either by email or through our chat system this evening. I don't know if there's any other comments any members of council would like to make this evening before we wrap up.
Hey James, it's Jeff. I just wanted to make a few more comments around, the mayor did make some comments about what we've been doing as far as the budget goes, or taxes. And, one of the things that we have been doing is revisiting our whole capital budgeting project, looking at areas and opportunities where we could reduce our spending to really give us a little bit more flexibility to address some of the challenges, since we don't know when things are going to start to reopen, as well as from an operating budget perspective, really focusing on what we can do without to really reduce our spending, and making sure that we're keeping as many people as employed as possible so they can continue to support our small business in our community. I think there's a number of things that the federal and provincial government are doing to support some things, but there's still some folks that are being left out. And I think, one of the programs that we're still waiting for information to come out from the government is around the rent program, and where they're really focusing on small business. And, if you're renting from somebody, it's really a program geared to the landlord, where the landlord would reduce your rent by 25%. The government will kick in 50% of the rent, and the business owner would be paying just 25% of the rent. So the details on those are still coming out. They're expected to come out on the 15th. I think that program is probably going to have a bigger impact than a lot of the programs that are out there that are really geared more to the medium and the larger size businesses. So I think, stay tuned. I think, we're really trying to be there to support, our ratepayers, whether it's business or residential, and really making sure we have the flexibility so that we can, deal with this if it continues to lag on for another 3 or 6 months.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. Dan, I saw your hand go up.
Yeah, if I may, just for a moment, I appreciate Jeff's comments because they're bang on. I do, however, want to state that COVID-19 and the downturn in the economy will probably have as much impact on the city's 2021 budget as it did on our 2020 budget. Well, we're all hoping by the fall things will slowly come back to normal. From a municipal perspective, on another committee I sit on representing Northeastern Ontario, it's going to be well into 2021 before municipalities get their feet under them again. So I appreciate the challenges that our businesses are facing, and we're going to do everything we can to help them. But the municipality is also in the boat where revenues have been cut to nothing and costs continue. So it's a slow process, and I hope people will bear through it.
Perfect, and thanks, Dan. And I'm hoping that through organizations such as Phenom, that obviously you're the president of, that you guys will be able to support communities across the north by getting them those messages to both levels of government to help all municipalities in Ontario. Oh, and I now have a couple more questions. So, Jesse, I'll get back to you in a moment for your maybe a word or two, but I've got another question. So, it's a municipal question. Are we still under a fire ban, or can we burn?
No, definitely we're still under that provincial fire ban. There will not be any fireworks allowed or any open wood burning. The only thing that's actually allowed is a propane outdoor fireplace if people happen to have those. So that is a provincial guideline or provincial mandate that we have to follow there. It's right all across Ontario.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, and I think that's a reasonable. Some folks have these propane heater table units. They can use those as an outdoor fire pit should they wish. I think that's a reasonable opportunity. So what am I seeing here? Another question. Looks like a service question. Any programs to help not-for-profit organizations like museums and art galleries? Any of my service providers have any of those for me?
I can jump in here, James.
Thanks, Megan.
There are some if they have employees. So the Canadian, the CBA loan, which is the Canada Emergency Benefit Account, is a loan that they could be eligible as a not-for-profit organization, but they would have to be able to demonstrate that they have at least $20,000 in payroll in 2019. And the other thing that they could be eligible for is the wage subsidy. So there's the temporary wage subsidy as well as the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy. So again, it's dependent on whether or not they have payroll and employees.
Okay, perfect. I know I was actually contacted by one of the local golf clubs, and I suggested the same thing. Theoretically, they would be eligible for those same programs to help offset some of their costs.
Yeah, and I believe the rent program that Jeff was referring to will also be eligible for not-for-profit organizations and charities as well.
Okay.
Assuming that they meet the criteria that's laid out.
Perfect, thank you. So, Jesse, you're the only person I haven't had a chance to ask a question to. I don't have a question, but is there anything you would like to say? Oh, I can't hear you. Oh, well. So much for that. But, well, anyway, I am out of questions. I'd certainly like to thank all the members of council who joined us this evening and our service providers who joined us this evening. Does anybody have anything else they would like to say to the folks on the line before we call it an evening? Seeing,
Basically, I'd just like to say we are thinking about you. We hope you're doing well. If you need someone to talk to about your business, give me a call. Sometimes it just takes somebody to listen and maybe shoot ideas off of, and we're hoping for the best for all of you.
wonderful.
Just
Thanks,
like to
Sean.
say- just like to say on behalf of the health unit and the city that we think the businesses have done a great job social distancing and trying to get past this COVID-19 epidemic there. And I mean, they've kept the distance, we've kept the numbers down, we've kept the number of cases to a bare minimum here. We're doing well. I think probably the next 3 or 4 weeks we'll see whether we've tested all the long-term care facilities now as well, and we don't seem to have any new cases coming up in those long-term care homes. And hopefully we can maintain that. We were somewhat isolated. We got ahead of the game before this actually came up into this area. So we're doing very well in this area now. I thank all the residents and then the business people.
Perfect, thank you. And I'm gonna do one last check with Brad. Brad, are you aware of any other questions that I'm not seeing?
There are no more questions, sorry.
No, perfect. Well, thank you everyone for joining us this evening, and we hope it was valuable for those that joined us. Thank you again, everyone, and have a good evening.
Thanks, James.
Thank you. Thank you for hosting.
Everyone.